ignorance and arrogance of white supremacy have the shapers and movers of world policy living in a different world from people of color altogether. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you're going to be.
You're listening to the Inner Obama. This is Reverend Wright. This is not from 5 years ago. This is from April 9th, 2012. Attacking white people and glorifying people of color based on race. This is naked racism. This is something you would hear inside the Nation of Islam. But this is exactly what Obama sat through for 20 straight years, and he was not vetted by the vermin in the media. Not vetted by one person in the media. Not one person in the media dared ask him, how could you sit through that? And you know, as I sit here, Obama is going to get away with it again. You know and I know that Mr. Romney doesn't have the heart to stand up and demand an answer from Obama and ask him if he agrees with these clips of his sermon from Reverend Wright. But I want to remind you of something. I want to remind you what we're facing here. We're facing a nightmare. You know, there was a movie years ago called Burn with Marlon Brando. I'm one of the few people who even remember it. It was actually one of Brando's best movies, but he plays a white man who goes out to the Caribbean to be a plantation master, and he joins the slaves in a slave revolt. The slaves revolt and burn down the master's house and then burn down the cane field. God knows what they... Same thing happened in Ex-Rhodesia, became Zimbabwe. Great talk about the evil white man. Kicked the white man off the land. Said, oh, we now own the farms. Now Zimbabwe is a basket case, importing food when it once exported food. You have to understand that this hatred is often based upon nothing but hatred and stupidity and ignorance. But I want to remind you, as I have in many of my books, that what I'm about to say is true. And if you can argue with one word of it, you're welcome to call me. And if you can prove that I'm a racist for reminding you that trains, planes, cars, rockets, telescopes, tires, telephones, radios, television, electricity, atomic energy, computers, fax machines are all miracles made possible by the minds and spirits of men who Reverend Wright hates and calls ignorant and stupid. Names like Ampere, Bell, Caselli, Edison, Ohm, Faraday, Einstein, Cohen, Teller, Shockley, Hertz, Marconi, Morse, Popov, Ford, Volta, Michelin, Dunlop, Watt, Diesel, Galileo, and other evil, arrogant, ignorant white males. Shall I remind you again of some of the other inventions, or does this disturb you in some way? Curse me if you want. Curse all white males if you want, but that won't change anything. But if you want to call me a liar, you'll have to come up with the proof that I'm wrong. Remember, I didn't say there were no important contributions by non-white males. I said the overwhelming majority of inventions are from white males. Of course, I know about such things as the Chinese and gunpowder, but they didn't take it much beyond firecrackers and pyrotechnics. I know about the pyramids and masonry of South America. I know about the zero of the Arabs, but would we have atomic physics and electricity if it hadn't been for the ancient Greek philosophers who, for example, had the idea that all matter consists of tiny atoms? Is that something that Reverend Wright can even fathom in his pea brain? Can he even comprehend what an atom is? All he knows is that racism sells, hatred sells. Aristotle, 5th century BC, 25th century pre-PC, used electric charges to treat gout. Archimedes perceived the center of gravity of solids, cylinders, and spheres. From the basic discoveries of Greek civilization, it went to the Romans, and after the fall of Rome, it passed to later Europeans who expanded on the scientific knowledge. In modern times, these ideas were developed by such European white males as Volta, Ampere, Watt, Bell, Edison, and Einstein, who provided the basis for most of the technical wonders of today. All of them ignorant, arrogant white males. Maybe you got your enlightenment from one of the Ivy League institutions of this education. Maybe they taught you that it's all a result of white racism and oppression. that every time a potential Einstein, Edison, or Ford popped up in the third world, a white hit squad would swoop down and eliminate him before he had a chance to prove himself. Maybe they didn't have proper daycare facilities. Maybe our would-be innovator came from a dysfunctional family. Maybe they told you that. Well, it's all wrong. The fact of the matter is, be very careful what you're saying. Because if you destroy the white male, as Obama is out to do on a daily basis by attacking the successful white males, of course he likes the white male in the gutter. Of course he admires the white male who is a dependent of the government. But he seems to hate the very people he lives off. Who are his advisors? You would think that Rahm Emanuel is not a white male. You would think his good friend from Chicago, whose name I forget. Does anyone remember his name? The brain, Obama's brain. Axelrod is not a white male, but you'd be wrong. I am trying to act as Paul Revere for this country. I'm warning you that this man is out to destroy you. He wants to not only turn this into the socialist states of America, he literally wants to enslave you one way or the other. I don't mean it literally, but the fact of the matter is this is a tyrant. We have a naked Marxist president who is espousing Marxism on a daily basis. It's all in my New York Times bestseller, Trickle-Down Tyranny. Read it and argue with me, but for God's sakes, don't argue out of stupidity.
Savage.